I'm Carrie Joel, and this is Avenue Code's Extraordinary Women in Tech podcast. Here, you find inspiring conversations with top executives and technology leaders. If you're listening to us on our podcast platform, be sure to follow us. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. For today's podcast, I am so happy to host Marta Cabrita. She is head of digital transformation. She comes from all the way from Portugal. And welcome, Marta, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Hi, Carrie. Thank you so much for your invitation as well.
Excellent. Well, why don't we get right into it? To start with, what we'd like to do is maybe you could tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Thank you for your question. So I started as a lawyer. So I did my bachelor degree in law and my master in commercial law. And I used to be a lawyer a lot of years ago. And at some point in time, I was more interested on learning the business models of the clients of the law firm that I was working at that point than doing the legal work itself. And for that reason specifically, I decided to shift completely and did my second master in international management and decided to shift towards project management. And later in time, a couple of years it passed by, 10 to be exact, and which led me exactly to the position that I have today.
So what I love about that is clearly you're a life learner, right? Like education seems like it's always been part of your life. And I know recently you finished some more education. Can you tell us a bit about why you devote so much time to education and what do you feel it brings to your career?
I think it's important when you have a big shift of career as I had industry wise, for sure. Of course, you learn a lot in practice and a lot while doing exactly your job every day, but it's important also to solidify and even develop even more the knowledge that you already acquired at work. So for me, it's always important to try to invest as much as you can also in learning. So for example, 2 years ago, I did my postgrad in digital enterprise management to in some way understand better the methodologies that I was using on my day-to-day. But I also do a lot of courses regarding communication, change management, because I think it's important, even if I'm doing it every day, it's important to invest and to continue learning because things are changing so much that it's important to also keep up to date.
And just I'm curious, you've also being trained as a lawyer and then doing a postgrad in digital transformation. I mean, those are really, really different. Do you find commonalities in the learning in itself? Like, is there something from law that you pick up and you say, you know what, that's applicable to digital transformation? Or maybe, it's in some of the other learnings, work learnings, but I'm curious, is there some sort of those commonalities where it's like you've learned something, even though it's in a different field and applied it over?
The first thing I think, and it's even more present nowadays with AI, because regulations are changing all the time. So you need to keep up to date and to understand how regulations will be applied, is being a lawyer, right? And I think you can apply the same thoughts regarding technology. Things are changing so much technology-wise that you need to understand what is changing, why it's changing, and what will be the impacts on the organizations, but also in society. So that part, it will be for sure the same understanding.
Yeah. And, I always think, I remember when I first went into university, my father said to me, like, what you learn in university is how to think, right? Like and it's really what you're saying, like being a lawyer, it's that incredible rigor and you're able to apply that over. I mean, that's, yeah, for sure. So it sounds like what's really interesting about your story is that pivot, right? Like you had such a big pivot. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what led you to pivot? Like, what was that experience like? What were the big milestones that kind of made you make those decisions?
Regarding project management, I understood quite early when I changed. So my first job after being a lawyer was in a bank, and I was doing account management just to get into some field that was more related to management. And I was very quick to understand that I was really good at identifying processes that we could optimize and gain efficiency within the teams. So that was for sure one of the biggest milestones that led me then to look at technology as a way to create that efficiency that I was looking for.
And I mean, digital transformation, like it sounds like it's really been always ever present in what you've been doing. What, like, talk to us about digital transformation itself. What are the important experiences? What can you tell us about that journey and what you've learned in that journey?
So I think when I started, and specifically in digital transformation, I started in 2016 in a Portuguese oil and gas company. I was invited to join one of the first teams in a Portuguese company focusing on this type of challenges, digital transformation challenges. So I think the first big challenge regarding digital transformation is that companies are used to doing technical projects, so implementing a technology and so on, but they are not looking at the processes and looking at how can you gain efficiency by using technology and by transforming the process itself. And the second biggest challenge I would say for sure are the people. So when you look at processes, you're changing the way people are doing their day-to-day processes. And we are human beings, right? We have behaviors every day, we have routines, and to change those behaviors, it's for sure the biggest challenge within digital transformation projects.
And you know, I think being a woman is, you know, is something a little bit different, a little bit special. I think most if most women who work in IT will say there's not as many women as men. And because of that, we face bias. Can you talk a little bit about how you handle that? What have you seen? What advice do you give in how to overcome those biases as you're facing them?
So I think I was very lucky. So I had three role models that were very important in that perspective. So the first two is my stepmom and my mom, that are from a different generation than mine, and they always worked in the technology industry. So I think to see their career progress and how they dealt with all those challenges helped me deal with the ones that I'm facing nowadays in a different perspective for sure, because it's different generation. And for sure how my father, who also worked in this industry his whole life, dealt with all the stakeholders that he had to manage, and how he communicate with them, and how he tried to bring empathy. And for sure, in my perspective, empathy, we can all have empathy, but I think women and that perspective are more, it gets more easy for them to show their empathy and to translate it to other people. And when I'm trying to manage all the stakeholders I have to manage, and specifically the partners, and a lot of them for sure are men, I try to create that empathy in order to be clear the message that I'm trying to pass, and what are and the results that I'm trying to achieve with that specific argument or that specific project.
And I know just from speaking to you and having a few opportunities to understand a little bit more about what you do, I know communication is a big thing. Communication in what you do. Can you talk about how have you developed your communication skills, and how do you feel that they've helped you achieve the success that you are now in?
For sure. So I've been doing it's an investment that I've been doing the last 2 years and a half a lot. So I decided more to focus on first on and studying wise and investment wise, knowledge wise. I try to focus more first on the management perspective and the technology perspective, because I had no background on it, right? And afterwards, I felt the need to understand how to better communicate. So I did a lot of courses from communication, how to give training, for example, which is critical in digital transformation as well, how to give advice to people, how to manage teams as well, since I also have my team to manage. And from this to nonverbal communication as well, because that's also important, how you pass the message with your gesture, with the way that you communicate with people by using as well the position that you have while communicating. So studying for sure. And also I try to do as much as I can to observe how people react to the message that we are trying to send, because it's important to understand how verbally and non-verbally people are reacting to what we are communicating, and try to adapt it to the other person as well that I have in front of me while communicating, because you can use different communication strategies depending on the person that you have on the other side. I think trying to adapt the strategy, it's critical.
And I mean, when you're tackling such tough topics like, digital transformation, where you're, as you said, you're changing people's jobs, how they work, that communication is the vehicle to get that buy-in. And so, it's not even always about what you're saying, but how you're saying it. And I'm sure you've found that as well.
I also think that I do work a lot in the firm that I'm working currently with the communication team and the communication manager, which is a woman as well. I'm very glad to say that. And I love working with her. And I think I've learned a lot with her experience as well. Also, because she's been doing this kind of work in this law firm specifically for a lot of years. So she knows a lot what are the challenges communication wise. So we've been partnering a lot and how to communicate all the difficult and more easy messages that we have to send to our clients, let's say, and to our to the people that are receiving the results of this kind of projects, right?
And I love that, right? Because it's having that allyship. I mean, we always talk about it as part of EWiT, right? Like developing your network. That's why, we are so proud to be part of EWiT and curate it, is because you need that sisterhood, you need that allyship. I'm curious, mentorship is a big part of that as well. Can you talk about some mentorship that you've received and the impact that it's made?
So the first, as I explained before, the first job that I had specifically in digital transformation was in a Portuguese oil and gas company. And the manager at that time, and that was responsible for managing that first digital transformation team, was a woman, and she was working in a different in the same industry but in a different department, financing, control and management, more than properly digital information or technology. So it was really interesting to see a woman in a field that i'm that I'm in nowadays, right? And to see how she prospered, how she gained the acknowledgement of the benefits of what she was doing for the organization, and also how well she managed our team. And for me, more than that, how empathic she was with everyone, being assertive as at the same time when she felt the need to be. So it was really interesting to see that perspective.
And
And
it sounds she was inspiring, right? She inspired you to do what you do. And isn't that, having a woman who inspires you is something that I'm sure you hold in your heart.
for sure, yeah. It was really interesting to see and was really inspiring in order to lead me to where I am today and to manage a team nowadays in the last 4 years, to manage a team and to have this role as a woman in, unfortunately, a world that it's still uh, led by men, or more men than women. We're trying to be more, and I think this kind of organizations and this kind of events and also this kind of podcasts and so on, they are really important in order to inspire and to motivate other women that they can achieve this kind of positions, they can reach this kind of positions, and that we have a lot of qualities that will make us better for specific positions for sure. And without a doubt, in technology, I think it's critical. And nowadays, even more, because of this more social qualities that we have that create empathy. Communication wise, I think it's completely different the way that women communicate and men. I think we also pass more the human side of the equation. And I think to humanize situations and to humanize this kind of projects and even technology, it's critical in order for people to feel supported. So I think this kind of initiatives will definitely, and I hope will motivate much more women to join us in this field.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, inspiration, right, is like, I love it, right? You took that inspiration and you want to give it forward. Talk to me about, what does inspire you? How do you keep yourself motivated and inspired? Because sometimes it's a bit of a grind. Like, let's be honest, right? These jobs are tough. It's why we do them. But how do you keep inspired?
I think to have a balance is critical. So the first thing that gets me inspired is my family and my friends. I try to spend as much time as I can with them, and their support is critical, and it's been critical for all of these years in order for me to be where I am today. But I'm also a person that invests a lot of time in creativity. And when I say creativity, I can talk about the kind of books that I read, the amount of times that I go to theater. I've done already 70 countries in the world, most of them alone, because it's important also to have my space and to have time to think and to process all the things that happens on a day-to-day, that it's so fast that you don't have time to process most of the times. But I think to focus on creativity activities like traveling, reading, dancing, for example, it's critical in order to get inspired and bring that inspiration in your day to day. And for me, for example, it helped me a lot to understand how to adapt to the challenges and how to look at the methodologies and the strategies that I implement, and to understand how to better implement them according to the challenge that I'm facing.
I love that. And being a independent woman, in the world, learning about it, engaging in it, and doing it a little bit without apology, it sounds like. And I mean, that's wonderful. It's incredibly inspiring for me. So your time, we are so appreciative of it. And just if there were one thing for you to impart to our listeners, sort of as a summing it up, what would that be?
For sure that you can reach and you can achieve whatever you want. You just need to believe that you can do it. Because if you believe it, you're gonna do it for sure.
And how you've gotten to where you are, which is really impressive. And I always like to make sure that we really call out. I think sometimes we're a little hard on ourselves, right? And so it is absolutely my privilege to acknowledge everything that you've done in your career and where you've accomplished. EWiT Diamond member, we created it to have women shine, and you are certainly one of those. So thank you for taking the time, and we're excited to continue it, and we hope to hear from you soon. And thank you for taking the time.
So much, Carrie, for the invitation and for the conversation as well.